So box.
Hi, my name is Rochelle and you're watching or listening to Box F1 Pod. Welcome to the Singapore Grand Prix race review. Today we're going to be debriefing the Singapore Grand Prix, although we're mostly going to be debriefing all the off-track drama. We will get to stuff on track, but it was surprisingly boring for the Singapore Grand Prix. But there was a lot going on off. FIA made sure that it was juicy AF this weekend. So we're going to talk about everything from wizards to the F word. But first, as per usual, let's kick things off with the digital warm-up. Before I get started, I'm going to be making a knockoff Singapore sling because I have 3 of the ingredients and they're not even the real ingredients. So really what I'm making is a sour cherry gin lime tonic situation. I think only the gin and the cherry vibes are the same as the Singapore sling, so no one come at me, but it's close. And I found this recipe online and I promptly lost it. So this is all gonna be from memory and hoping that get it right. So adding some gin. I'm gonna add some cherry liqueur. Also, this is the gin in case you're new here and you haven't heard me talk about this ad nauseum, but my friends got me this for my birthday and it's called Engine, Fuel the Dream. The fact that it's not associated with F1 is wild to me because it's just like F1 in a nutshell. Woo. Then I'm going to add some cherry liqueur. This is a mix of sour and sweet cherry liqueur. My parents brought it back for me from Portugal when they were there. So I'm gonna add that in. And then I'm going to cut up some lime. This is a lime. It's a very brat summer lime, but it is a lime. I'm gonna add some tonic water. I didn't have sparkling water. I usually don't like tonic water, but here we are. And I'm gonna mix. Oh, that's actually so good. Wow. Okay, that's super good. Okay, cheers. Lap 1, F1 news. So James Vowles has vowed to help Franco get into F1 no matter what it takes. Obviously, currently the only seats available are the Sauber seat and then, well, I guess Checo's seat is not available, but it is available, but that's a little confusing because of other rumors. We'll get to it. So basically, is there a place for Franco? We're not sure, but holy shit, he's done so well in his first 3 races in F1. Someone's got to make some room. And we know James Vowles is a persistent guy, so whatever he wants, he'll make happen. And I guess following up on that, the rumor about this being Daniel's last race, it's really sad. Like, it's sad that this situation keeps arising from him and it's like getting really frustrating. I really hate this like thing that F1 loves to do where they just like kick people out mid-year. Like, the year's almost over, let him see it through. Liam will get his chance next year. Like, let a icon of the sport go out with grace. Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of embarrassing him like this, it's like embarrassing enough that he's not performing as well as we all know he can or could at one point. So it's just like, just let him write it out. But yeah, the rumors are that this will be his last race. Also so sad to do it right before Austin, like his favorite race ever. At least let that be his home race. But everyone was talking this weekend, like the announcement is imminent. So I guess we'll just have to take it as it comes. In other news, I guess I'll keep talking about the Red Bull family. It seems that Christian Horner has said in an interview that the issues that the Red Bull is having now have actually been what Sergio has been complaining about this entire year. But because Max kept winning, they ignored him. And now I guess they don't know why necessarily it's starting to affect Max's car now. Unless the implication is that now Max is starting to perform worse and therefore now the issues with the car are coming to light. Not entirely sure, but basically the upgrades that are causing all these issues were implemented long ago and that's when Checo started having issues, is moral of the story. And that's insane that they just ignored Checo because Max was winning. Like, I get it, but also I don't. Like, listen to your driver, you know? And I also kind of feel like that's why they keep not removing him because they're like, oh shit, you were really struggling this whole time. Like, obviously he's worse than Max. There's no denying that. But his poor performance is certainly due to the issues with the car that they're now finally taking seriously. And if I was Checo, I'd be so fucking annoyed. I'd be so irked. In other news, Kevin Magnussen is back, and it's fucking hilarious. His quote about coming back was, "You get punished, and then you come back, and you're like, oh, ready to fuck shit up now." It's funny how that works. Hilarious. He didn't really get the opportunity to fuck things up that crazy in this race, but there's always time because he has nothing to lose. No seat next year, no penalty points to acquire, accumulate, whatever. He's got a clean slate to literally be the biggest menace on the grid, and he's going to take that advantage, I'm sure. And finally, is the McLaren rear wing illegal? I don't think anyone's come out outright. Well, the FIA hasn't come out right and said this is illegal, but they're no longer allowed to use it. Clearly, it didn't make a difference this race. In fact, perhaps it made it better because Lando won by such a big margin. But all the drivers are super suspicious. Checo was like, it's clearly out of regulations. Charles said that from what he's heard, it's controversial, and it was basically like seemed to be adding like a mini DRS. And then when Oscar was asked about it, he was like, I didn't even know it did that. He's like, we'll get tested a lot, so clearly it's compliant. But the FIA, I guess, to avoid any issues, were like, we'll get rid of it. All right, lap 2, swearing. Oh my God, so I'm going on a trip tomorrow, and I have like 8 hours left to pack and do like a whole bunch of shit. But like this entire saga was the reason I desperately wanted to do an episode today. It's just, it was worth squeezing in. So basically, in a bizarre turn of events, the FIA has decided to crack down on swearing, like we're living in some sort of like dystopian socialist society. And there are several facets to this. So first, there's the radio swearing. So like this got kickstarted by the FIA's president, Mohammed, doing an interview where he said, I mean, we have to differentiate between our sport, motorsport, and rap music, Ben Soyam said. We're not rappers, you know. They say the F word how many times per minute? We are not on that. That's them, and we are us. That's the quote that's been circulating the most. He does go on to say that he knows what it's like to be in the heat of the moment, but says that the drivers need to watch themselves because they have a responsibility to the viewers and the possibility that children are watching, and like what happens if like a family's sitting down and they just start swearing. First of all, the broadcast is slightly delayed, so they can bleep out all the swearing. So there's not actual like direct curse words flying at poor little innocent kids. But that's fine. The drivers were not particularly happy about the comments about swearing on the radio. Lewis went so far as to say that there's a racial element to his choice of words, considering most rappers are black, and that 100% may be true, but I think what's more likely is that that's the only like pop culture example that Mohammed could like think of. So he's like, ooh, who swears? Rappers swear? Who else? No one else swear? Just like regular people swear all the time? Okay, let me refer rappers. I can't just say like we're motorsport. We're not just like the average person, because that's crazy. But it's probably a combination of both, honestly. Max said that the issue isn't the driver swearing, it's the fact that they're being broadcasted, and that if most athletes were mic'd up, you would basically be hearing the same thing, because when you're competing at such a high level and the adrenaline is rushing and you're stressed and all of this stuff, you swear, like you just do. And like whenever like the NFL players, on the rare occasion they're mic'd up, they like always start with like, ooh, I'm on mic, don't swear, like, because they're always swearing. And it's hard to watch yourself, especially when you're like in the heat of the moment. And also, why should they? That's how they express themselves. That's how they get their frustration out. Also, there's like a whole language barrier thing, right? Like Yuki learned English with swearing being like naturally built into it. Like he didn't know people don't go around saying fuck, shit, balls like all the time. Apparently in the Netherlands it's really common to swear, and it doesn't have as much of an impact as it does like in the English language, for example. Like they also don't bleep it out on TV. So there's like a different level of, it's just different in every country, the way how swearing is approached. But also Max was basically like, if you don't want us to swear, don't broadcast us, because we're all going to swear. That's just the nature of it. Like, we're adults, we're not little kids. You can't like tell us to not swear. And children are going to grow up and swear regardless whether they hear us doing it or not. So like, whatever, which is a very Max response. None of the drivers liked it. However, following that was another issue that I don't actually think is related to the comments about swearing on the radio. I think it was just a coincidence that it happened to follow each other. Although I guess they did say the FIA is cracking down on swearing in general, not just on broadcast. So like whatever. But basically, in the press conference on Thursday, the like general media day press conference, Max responded to a question about his car in Baku, saying that his car was fucked. And the FIA did not like that. He got called to see the stews, where they issued a reprimand and basically said he had to complete work of public interest for using language not suitable for broadcast. So from what I understand, the drivers generally don't swear in press conferences. Their frustration with the quote given by the FIA was that they were trying to control them in a heat of the moment environment. Like, you can't control what they're doing on the radio. Most of them don't usually swear when they talk to the press. And Max basically just slipped up, is what it sounds like. I think Lewis was like, we all make mistakes. Even Max was like, I slipped up, because they usually don't say the F word, but in that case. And he was also like, I didn't actually like say it at a person. I wasn't like yelling at someone. I wasn't angry. I wasn't directing it at a human. I was talking about the car. So it's not like I was behaving poorly. He just slipped up and said fucked in the interview, instead of saying the car was like screwed or whatever. So to give him community service for that, like, had he gone on a like swearing tirade against one of the reporters, that's another thing. He was like, it's actually insane. And the response to it has been like hilarious. Like, the uproar it has caused, everyone thinks the FIA is a giant joke. The memes that have come out, the jokes that have come out, everyone is like on one. The drivers are basically like, they all think it's hilarious, but they also think it's ridiculous. Apparently the WhatsApp chat was blowing up. Like, they were all popping off in there like, what the fuck? Another funny response that happened was F1 posted a video, I think it was in free practice, maybe it was in qualifying, but I think it was in free practice, where Franco Colapinto was like racing Max on Max's off lap, like overtaking him basically, and then Max like turned on the radio and like started like giggling at him doing that, and it was just like a really cute moment. And they posted it, and Colapinto commented and wrote, penalty, he's laughing. So it's just become this giant joke. But my favorite part is that Max, there is no like fury like a petty Max Verstappen, and he basically like, it feels like he did everything humanly possible to get his tractor of a car into the top 3 qualifying spots just so he could be at the qualifying press conference. Because he qualified P2 somehow, and he just goes to the press conference and gives like 2-3 word answers to everything. And Lando the entire time is just cackling at Max's reaction. Like, he's either like full on laughing or like really trying to hide his laughter. I do need to point out that Max took a moment to clarify that his behavior wasn't directed at the moderator or at any of the reporters, and he didn't want to upset anyone. He just like, I like that he took a moment to make it clear, like, I'm being a twat right now, but this is not at you. I'm sorry, you are like collateral damage. So the reporters kept trying to ask questions until finally Max was like, I don't know if I can answer these questions because I don't know what's going to happen to me. And one reporter was like, will you answer our questions outside? And Max was like, thumbs up. And the reporters, I think, finally gave up and just focused on Lando and Lewis. And then at the end, one reporter was like, do you think you're gonna get in trouble, Max, for not answering questions during this press conference? And Max goes, I'm answering. There's just like a problem with my voice. And then he puts the mic down because the conference is over. But I think it picked up him going, no problem with my balls though. And Lewis is trying to be like very demure, very put together, but I think he thinks it's funny too. And Lando just like cannot help himself. He's sitting there like dying of laughter at Max's behavior. And the best part is that Max held his word. And after the press conference, he met with all of the journalists outside and answered all their questions. And there's a picture of him like standing in the center, and he's just surrounded by like 50 journalists with mics shoved in his face, and he's calmly answering all the questions. And there was a rumor, I didn't see full evidence of it, but someone said that an FIA representative came over and said he's not allowed to do that, like stop in the middle of the paddock and like do an interview basically. And he's like, oh, no problem, we'll just move. So he and his like horde of journalists just started moving towards the media pen. It was great. 10 out of 10 response. Like, Max thrives when he's allowed to be petty, and everyone's backing him up now. And you see, this is what like kind of annoys me, is because there's a lot of comments being like, don't like Max but respect this, like never been a fan of Max but now I'm rethinking it. Max has always been like this. Max has always been like very direct, very straightforward. If something pisses him off, he's very clear about it. You just didn't like the things he was angry about before, but he's always behaved like this, and I love it. And he's also joined a very long line of sticking it to the man when it comes to the FIA and F1 drivers. Last year, if you remember, there was, or maybe it was 2 years ago with Seb, when they like released a rule about their underwear or something. They could only wear a specific type of underwear or something. So Seb walked through the paddock with a pair of briefs on top of his tracksuit. And then there was a time that the FIA like came down on wearing jewelry. And of course, the person wearing the most jewelry is Lewis Hamilton. So that felt a bit pointed. So he showed up the next day to the press conference wearing like 3 watches and like every piece of jewelry he owns. And I thought it was incredible. So I love this long story tradition of like really telling the FIA to shove it. And when Lewis was asked what he thinks of Max's community service, he said he thought it was a bit of a joke. And if he was Max, he wouldn't do it, and he hopes Max doesn't either. I think Max has 0 plans of doing this community service, regardless of what it may be. Do I think Max would be opposed to community service in general? Absolutely not. Do I think he's opposed to this because FIA said he has to do community service because he said, my car's fucked? 100%. No, I don't think anyone thinks he should do it. It's ridiculous. All right, lap 3, off-duty F1. Mercedes has finally done the best piece of content they've ever done. I don't know why it's taking them this long to do it. Maybe they couldn't get Lewis to agree, but they basically let Lewis and George loose in like a room with like all of Tommy Hilfiger's clothes and said, dress each other. Fucking hilarious. Lewis immediately went for the most streetwear type things he could find. George immediately went for the preppiest thing, not even his version of preppy. He went so far as to do like a Toto version of preppy. He wanted ankles showing, loafers, khakis. Like when Lewis saw it, he was like, please no, please God no. And when they put them on, my friend Lexi was like, Lewis's clothes is like Samson's hair. As soon as it's gone, like the swag has immediately just vacated Lewis's body. He looked so lame. Like the pants were like up to his belly button. He literally went, I've never worn my pants this high. He like had to roll up the pants because they were too long, and so you could see the ankles. He had the loafers with no socks. He had the tucked in shirt. And then he like found this like Tommy Hilfiger like neon orange vest and like a really baggy t-shirt and really baggy jeans that he put on George. And George looked so bad. Like it was like it just so tragically did not work. It was hilarious. And someone was like, what kind of boy band are you guys? And Lewis goes, we're wrong direction. And they were. Like, it was just, it went so poorly. Like, I feel like, I mean, and that was the point of the whole thing. But like, you could dress Lewis in George's style in a way that still fits his aesthetic. Like, you know, like a cooler street version of like a preppy boy, and you could make George look a bit more streetwear, 100%, but like it just so didn't fit them. It was like the best thing they've ever done. I'm so glad we squeezed that in before he left, because I don't think there's any driver pairing on the grid that has more stark of a contrast and aesthetic than Lewis and George. 10. There was a cute clip of Carlos and Charles in the car, and Carlos was like just singing every national anthem. He like sang the Singapore national anthem, then he sang the Azerbaijan national anthem, and then he sang like the Italian national anthem. He just was on a roll, and Charles was like, how do you remember all of these? I know the Monegasque and the Italian. It's just such a Carlos thing to just know all the anthems. Also, another funny video, Ollie Bearman, I think F2's over. So Ollie Bearman was just on track the whole time, and he was just doing like It's like he had like an internship at F1. He did a he did a photography thing. Like he went through and was doing all the photography. Then he worked as the social media admin, posting a bunch of tweets. And then he did some trackside reporting. And the trackside reporting like really took me out. The trackside reporting really took me out because he's like taking pictures of the cars going by, and he keeps turning around to the camera going, "Oh my God, like they're so fast." And he looks genuinely shocked at the speed of these cars. And it was really funny because he's usually the one driving them really fast. It was just cute. And another thing he did, he was doing some commentary with Will Buxton, and they're doing some commentary, and Ollie tries to do a Cars reference to Guido changing the wheels super fast, and Will and the other guy just like blink at him, and then Will's like, "Oh yeah, like in NASCAR when they change like 2 wheels at a time," and then the other guy's like, "Oh yeah, for sure," and they like start trying to like follow up on Ollie's comment, and Ollie goes, "I don't know if you guys got that Cars reference. Maybe you're too old." And Will's face looks genuinely offended. Like he just like leans back and he's like, "What the fuck?" And then he elaborates. He's like, "Oh, of course, Cars. I know Cars." I'm not entirely sure Will was on the same page. Like everyone knows Guido. Remember that one Ferrari mechanic that had him tattooed on? 10 out of 10. In other news, Oscar was asked if he had a chance to celebrate. And he said, no, unfortunately, he had no time. And he was also humbled very quickly when George Russell beat him in a world championship game of Uno, which is hilarious. And also, I feel like George Russell would be very good at Uno. Also, there was, you know, the stage thing. I really need to know what that's called because every time I try to talk about it, I have no idea what that event is called. But when they're on stage with fans, the fan stage thing, they were all asked if you had to pick one driver to do an escape room with, who would you pick? And almost every single person chose Oscar. And then it got to McLaren and Lando was like, well, I would choose Yuki because he's small and can squeeze through spaces. And has Lando ever been to an escape room? Because you're not squeezing through anything really. And then Oscar was like, I'm gonna go with a different approach. I'd probably pick someone intelligent. Not quite sure who that would be. And then he's just like thinking, and eventually he's like, maybe Fernando. Which is hilarious because then he was told that all the other drivers were going to pick him and he was like, really? Which makes it funny because all the drivers think he's the smartest and he also clearly thinks he's smarter than all the other drivers. But 100% Fernando and Carlos are the best options to have in there. They definitely seem to be the most like, they think through things like that. Max would probably be pretty good too. But I just found it so funny that Oscar genuinely thinks he's so smart that he couldn't pick anyone and everyone else also picked him. Good shout though, he'd be great in an escape room. All right, for trackside at Singapore. First of all, it was pouring. I'm almost sad we didn't get like a pouring race, but that's not as fun when it's nighttime. The Ferrari posted a 20 picture carousel of Carlos running out of the rain. But like the last picture didn't actually show him getting out of the rain. He seemed to still be in the rain. It was a great collection of pictures. It was just hilarious that they posted all 20 of them. George posted a picture of him with his team or some of his friends, whoever it was, playing padel in literally like a torrential downpour. During the track walk, we saw Lenny Kravitz out of absolutely nowhere. There were also another couple of people that I just did not know, but Martin seemed to know. My favorite part was when Martin Brundle stopped by the Aston Martin car and there was a little step stool next to it. And he was like, this step stool is for Fernando to get into the car without damaging the livery or anything. And he's like, and you can get it on Amazon. Isn't that fascinating? There's $1 million car and right next to it is something you can get on Amazon. Go ahead, take a look. You can get this step stool on Amazon. I'm like, are you sponsored by this step stool? It was very weird. But anyway, with that, we conclude the digital warm-up. On to analysis. Okay. Kicking things off with free practice, actually. In FP1, Fernando was almost going to crash his car and then somehow saved it. And the radio of him avoiding this crash was so funny. The engineer goes, just to check, Fernando, you pushed the pit button? Was that on purpose? And Fernando goes, no, to avoid crashing this car, I push the buttons. All the ones I have, which is incredible. It's just like everyone knows that feeling when something that you're using stops working and you're like sheer panic and you're like, and you just click everything. Like sometimes when my laptop doesn't work in a very smart way, I just sometimes go like, and hope something happens. That never works, so don't do that. But it's not $1 million race car. I don't just like slam on all the buttons, which I just found it was really funny. Sounds like he's gonna be great in an escape room. He's not sure what's going on. Just press everything. Also, the free practice graphics were insane, like actually crazy. Lando Norris's little title card said, has started a Grand Prix from pole 5 times and lost the lead on the first lap every time. Okay, call him out. Then Franco's title card said, scored more points in 2 races than predecessor Sargent did in 36 starts for the team. Leave Logan alone. Like, why are we still attacking Logan? Just focus on Franco. And then Max's card just said winless for the last 7 Grand Prix. Why are we being mean? Like, someone literally woke up and chose chaos. During free practice, there was also a lizard on track, and it was a fast lizard. They had to stop the session. There were marshals chasing this lizard with a plastic bag. Why is that the, like, vessel for this lizard? Is Singapore not, after all these years, prepared to catch a lizard on track? Should we have, like, a lizard wrangler ready on track to catch a freaking lizard? There's these marshals just chasing these lizards going as fast as fucking possible. For sure, like, went purple. It was just... It was very funny. It happens every year. I'm surprised they're not more prepared. At least it only happened during free practice and the race wasn't stopped because the freaking lizard was on track. During quali, Lando got pole. Charles's lap time got deleted for exceeding track limits, and Carlos had a giant crash, which he fully took blame for. He just like lost a rear or something and couldn't save the car, and it's just so, the tires are so unpredictable on this track, and it was a really aggressive crash. Very impressive that they fixed the car, but yeah, it stopped the session and sort of secured Lando the pole, although I kind of think he had it anyway. So the starting grid is as follows: Lando, Max, Lewis, George, Oscar, Nico, Fernando, Yuki, Charles, Carlos, Alex, Franco, Checo, Kevin, Esteban, Daniel, Lance, Pierre, Valtteri, and Zhou Guanyu. All right, let's talk about the race. This was a very boring race. Not much to talk about. I'm gonna sort of whip through the highlights instead of going play by play, because there is no play by play. It was really pretty boring. The only thing that was happening was like, oh, tires are grading because it's hot as fuck. We should change them. And then everyone had 2 stops except for Daniel, who had 3. And it was just like, tires are grading, tires are grading. It was just not, it was boring. However, starting with the start, a miracle happened and Lando kept track position from lights out and away they go through the entire first lap, followed by the rest of them. He just led the whole time and it was incredible. And I'm so proud that he broke this curse and people can stop giving him grief. That was pretty much the most exciting thing that happened at the start. The other thing that happened at the start was that Franco somehow made up 3 places into P9 and Alex was in P15. Franco overtook Alex in like an incredible move, which Alex described as dive bombing. And he got on the radio like pretty upset. He's like, what is he doing? Why did he do that? Unfortunately for Alex, he was the only person who thought that, because everyone was very impressed with that move from Franco and it was truly great. Safe, great overtake. Yeah, it's on his teammate, but tough luck. Alex is just not used to his teammate doing that to him. Wait until next year, Alex. It's just gonna get worse. Other highlights. McLaren. Lando hit the wall twice and then kept going just like really fast. It was insane. When he came to pit stop after the first time he hit the wall, I like somehow missed him tapping the wall. It was a very gentle tap. And everyone kept talking about like how he didn't change his front wing, even though they had noticed that there was damage on the front wing over the radio. But nothing changed, so I guess it wasn't that bad. And then Lando went and hit the wall again. And kept going. It was like honestly a fucking miracle. All of the positive things were on his side today, because we've seen people tap the wall less and just like their car blows up. So Oscar was too far behind to even be in contention for a win, but he had some like absolutely insane overtakes on the Mercedes, like balls to the wall. His wild overtakes without like taking it too far, like he always keeps it, he never crosses the line, but does the most insane overtakes in the craziest places, and it's just the control and the balls to do all that is very impressive. Ferrari. So about lap 7, Carlos complained that he got hit with some carbon fiber, and the team was like, you're fine. Clearly not, though, because somehow he found himself like at the back of the grid. He was like P19 and had to crawl his way back up. So just want to shout out Carlos, because he did crawl his way back up from P19 to P7, and that's not easy in Singapore. Charles also had kind of a crazy race, but it was more about like maintenance. He had to fight tooth and nail the entire time and was basically on George's tail towards the end, like the whole time, but just couldn't quite overtake him, which seems to be a common theme for him. But very impressive that he, like, truly endurance and maintenance in Singapore is like king, and it is like one of the most impressive feats you can do. Even like Lando swerving into the wall a couple of times, he still maintained his lead with like an exceptional gap. So like kudos to him. There was a bit of team orders going on at Ferrari. Carlos got told to let Charles through, but Charles was basically going to overtake Carlos anyway, and it was more like a warning, like, hey, don't make it hard, just like preserve both of your tires and stuff like that. On to Mercedes. Lewis got really pissy about his strategy like halfway through the race. He first radioed that they pitted way too early, and then later said that the team was killing him with the offset, and they're like, no, we still have so many options. But like, not really, because he finished 6th and started 3rd, so don't blame him for being pissed off, because like, how did they fuck that up? And then George had a great race overall, and also being able to keep Charles at bay for so many laps, very impressive. But the most hilarious part of his race was his radio, where he just randomly got on like halfway, I think, through, and he just goes, I need some encouragement, mate. And his engineer goes, well, here are some traction metrics for you, and then like rattled off some metrics, and like the commentator said what I was thinking, which is like, I thought he was gonna be like, you're doing great, George, way to go. And then Ron was like, no, I think he was actually looking for some metrics. Not sure. I think George was looking maybe for both, but like, if you wanted metrics, he could have said metrics. Like, is encouragement code for metrics, or is that how his engineer expresses love? I've also never heard anyone go on the radio and be like, I need some encouragement. It's, of all the drivers, of course it's George. Of course it's George. All right, let's talk about Red Bull very fast. Max basically had no chance of catching Lando once Lando managed to survive the start and keep his lead. No one could really catch up to Lando, but no one could also really catch up to Max. So he basically spent the whole time sort of alone, just like keeping his tractor of a car in P2. I guess they did change something. I don't think he was fully happy with the car, but it was certainly better. And on Max's radio after the race, Christian tells him that Daniel got fastest lap for him, and Max says, thank you, Daniel. I don't remember if Christian actually said for you, or if that was between the lines and Max was like picked up on it, but I think it's a weird thing to vocalize on the radio that your sister team that you claim you have no control over has just done a fast lap for you to help in the World Drivers' Championship, which clearly it did. Like, it might not matter at the end, but like, it's close enough that they need every point possible. They couldn't ask Checo to do it because he wasn't, he didn't have a big enough gap to pit and still maintain his race lead where he was at, and they couldn't ask Yuki because same thing. So they asked Daniel. Poor Daniel. At least he can leave F1 knowing he helped his buddy secure another race win, a championship win. All right, Franco. Franco pulled, like we already talked about, like an absolutely insane move on Alex from the start, and just like, Franco actually spent a lot of the race in P7, which was very impressive. He ended up falling back into P11, which is fair enough, but even finishing P11 at his first time in Singapore for his 3rd race ever in F1 is quite a feat. And like, everyone just like, I think it's a little different than all the other, when we had people fill in and they did great one race and everyone's like, put them in F1, and then they like floundered and imploded. I don't think that's the same thing here. He's clearly showed that he belongs in F1, and I do hope James Vowles succeeds in getting him a position somewhere. Kylie Minogue waved the checkered flag. That was fun. They were so tired. Lando literally crawled out of his car, like crawled up on top and like stood and like waved his hands, but didn't even like reach them up all the way, and then like crawled over to his team to celebrate and was like half high-fiving them. He was so tired, bless him. They were all so tired and sweaty and just like wiped. They lose like 5 kilograms a race, which I think ends up being like 10 pounds almost. crazy, insane. Get me in one. And this is also the one they trained the craziest for, because I don't know if you guys remember, but I think Carlos had posted some footage of him training a couple years ago, and they literally just put like a bike in a sauna. They like train in the sauna. It's crazy. In the cool down room, they all watched the video of Lando hitting the wall, and it was hilarious because they're all like doing these sound effects like ah, ooh, ah, oh, and then Max goes, no way. And Lando like starts giggling and goes, I actually shit myself. And then Oscar goes, so without using any swear words, how did you feel in that moment? And then like puts like a fake mic out to Lando, and Lando goes, I felt funky. And Max didn't laugh. I don't know why. I don't know if he didn't hear Oscar, because that was hilarious. And maybe he's still bitter. I don't know. I don't know why he didn't laugh. I thought it was funny. All right, so the driver of the day. I think all of my honorable mentions were mentioned in my race analysis, but the official driver of the day was Daniel Ricciardo, which is sort of like a bittersweet thing. It's nice of the fans to sort of give him a send-off, since we're not allowed to like send him off properly in Abu Dhabi, assuming all these rumors are true and this is his last race. I did like that Max said in an interview that Daniel should be proud, and few people can say they had a career like his in F1. I think I already talked about this. In case I didn't, I'll cut it out if I did. And that now he can like just chill on a farm somewhere. And I feel like that's Max's dream. I don't think he wants to be on a farm, but he wants to just chill out. And I think he thinks this is a blessing for Daniel, and it probably is. And to be like, it's such a horrible position to be in year after year, to be like, am I going? Am I leaving? Am I staying? Like every race is just like, is this the last one? We don't know. This one does seem like the last one. He got the driver of the day. They gave him fastest lap to help Max, but like still like a send off. I don't know. I feel really bad that his career is ending in this way, but I guess that's life. And I guess Liam, time for some fresh blood. I hope he keeps some sort of like position in F1 though. You know, like maybe a commentary, maybe, I guess that's the only option. Maybe on a team, but not as like as a reserve driver. I think he needs to be used more. Dick in the box. Without a shadow of a doubt, is the FIA. Also, can I just say one of the funniest things to come out of this weekend is that Max Verstappen is arguably like the best driver on the grid this season. One of the best drivers in history in general. This year alone, he has had to deal with like domestic drama with Christian Horner stuff at the beginning of the year. Then there's like a very obvious like rift between his father and Christian Horner. Then he gets like a bedtime so that he's not like playing sim 24 hours before a race. Now he's gotten like a shitbox of a car to like drag through a race week after week. And now he's been given, like, he's literally been grounded for swearing one time. Like he actually has to go do community service and like has a punishment for saying fuck. Is he 8? Like, why is he being treated this way? It's like actually been kind of comical. He's like not actually done anything bad. He's actually doing very good at his job. I don't know why he keeps getting in trouble. But anyway, yes, stick in the box, FIA. The results of this race are as follows. Lando, Max, Oscar, George, Charles, Lewis, Carlos, Fernando, Nico, Checo, Franco, Yuki, Ocon, Stroll, Guan Yu, Valtteri, Gasly, and Daniel, with 2 DNFs, Kevin, and then Alex Albon. The standings are as follows. Max with 331, thanks to that one. I can speak. Thanks to the fast lap from Daniel. Lando with 279, Charles with 245, Oscar with 237, Carlos with 190, Lewis with 174, George with 155, Checo with 144, Fernando with 62, and Nico with 24. So Lando did a good job of like not necessarily catching up to Max, but creating more of a gap between him and Charles and Oscar, who were really closing in on him in the driver standings. It's gonna take a lot for him to win the World Drivers' Championship this year, but you never know. The constructors' points are as follows. McLaren with 516, Red Bull with 475, Ferrari with 441, Mercedes with 329, Aston with 86, RB with 34, Haas with 31, Williams with 16, and Alpine with 13. Oh, and Kick Sauber with 0. So that's it for the Singapore Grand Prix. Not quite as thrilling as we're used to, but the FIA did give us quite a bit of off-track content to keep us going. Thank you FIA. Now we've got randomly an entire month off before we jet off to the States for the Austin Grand Prix. I did not realize that was going to happen. Why did we do this and have like all those triple headers instead of spreading it out a bit more evenly? Basically another summer break, but it's like fall break, like a few weeks after summer. It's weird. Anyway, make sure you follow at BoxBoxF1 Pod on social media to keep up in between races. This time you'll definitely need to, because who knows what's going to happen in that time. And maybe I'll do an episode in between to fill in the gap that we're randomly found ourselves in. As always, make sure you subscribe, share with any potential boxes, and leave a review if you can. My inbox is always open via email or on social to hear your thoughts, questions, ideas, or just to send me any content you find, because I'm definitely not seeing it all and I want to see it all. Anyway, yeah, next time we're in Austin. Until then, box.